An early era of the league saw the original six franchises put a stranglehold on winning the title. But since 1995, a dozen different teams have brought home a championship. Sports fans wary of the same teams always competing for championships should rejoice at the Washington Capitals last week capturing their first Stanley Cup. Since the Cup became the de facto NHL championship 91 years ago, this was just the fourth final to feature two teams that hadn't won before. Long-standing NHL rules and business practices historically made it difficult for all but a handful of dynasty franchises to win titles, and it's only the past 2 decades or so we've seen a more democratized Stanley Cup competition. The Capitals defeating the expansion Vegas Golden Knights 4-1 marked the latest in this shift. The NHL has seen the same teams winning the Stanley Cup for much of its existence. Only the last 2+ decades have the winners rotated as in other major sports. Different teams winning titles * 1943 to 1994 NFL, 19 MLB, 17 NBA, 16, formed in 1947, NHL, 11 1995 present NFL, 13 MLB, 13 NHL, 12 NBA, 11 * counts relocated franchises as separate teams. Capitals forward TJ Oshie, a Mount Vernon native, will become the second Washington-born player with his name inscribed on the cup. And just in time, since previous Washington-born winner Wayne Hicks will see his name and others from the 1960-61 champion Chicago Blackhawks removed this year to make room for a new band of winners and keep the cup from becoming too heavy to lift. What Oshie and Hicks have in common was the rarity of their teams winning. Hicks' team was the only Cup winner in 25 years of the league's original six era, not from Montreal, Toronto, or Detroit. And Oshie's franchise took 43 years to win it all after forming in 1975. In both cases, lopsided rules were largely to blame. Once brutal NHL expansion draft rules hampered the Caps throughout their early existence. By contrast, the Golden Knights made the final their inaugural season with improved expansion rules. Seattle will also benefit from if awarded a team. Those early expansion rules were a byproduct of the old six-team NHL protecting legacy franchises. The original six era began the 1942-43 season after several NHL teams had disbanded to leave just 6 remaining clubs. For the next quarter-century, the monopolistic owners of the Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Detroit Red Wings, Blackhawks, Boston Bruins and New York Rangers resisted any expansion attempts. The NHL actually operated more like a 3-team league back then, owing to a territorial exemption rule giving clubs exclusive rights to players living within 50 miles of their home ice. Since the best players hailed from Canada, that rule favored the Canadiens, Leafs and a Red Wings squad adjacent to the border. The Canadiens made the final 16 times during the 25 years, the Red Wings 13 times and the Maple Leafs 11 times. Montreal won the Cup 10 times, Toronto 9 and Detroit 5. Meanwhile, the Bruins competed in just 5 finals, the Blackhawks in 4 and the Rangers in 1. As mentioned, only the 1961 Blackhawks won a title. Stanley Cup Finals since 1927 involving no previous winners. 2018, Washington Capitals defeat Vegas Golden Knights 4-1, 1999. Dallas Stars defeat Buffalo Sabres 4-2, 1996. Colorado Avalanche defeat Florida Panthers 4-0, 1991. Pittsburgh Penguins defeat Minnesota North Stars 4-2 *. Anaheim Ducks defeated Ottawa Senators 4-1 in 2007. Ottawa was an expansion franchise from 1993 but won Cup in a previous incarnation in 1920, 1923 and 1927 under the Senators' name. It took the implementation of an amateur draft in 1963 to give all teams access to top Canadian youngsters. The Blackhawks, Bruins and Rangers had vastly improved by 1967-68, when the 6 NHL owners finally caved and expanded to 12 teams. But the subsequent expansion draft rules they imposed kept their original 6 squads dominant. Montreal and Boston won every championship the first 6 post-expansion seasons, and an original 6-team made all but one cup final before 1980. Even the Philadelphia Flyers, becoming the first of the expansion teams to win a cup in 1974, only launched a new era of dynasties. The Flyers won consecutive titles and went to 3 finals in a row before Montreal dethroned them and won 4 championships in a row, followed by the New York Islanders taking the 4 after that. The Edmonton Oilers finally toppled the Islanders and won 4 cups in 5 years, interrupted only by the Canadiens winning another. So from 1974 to 93, when the ever-expanding NHL had between 16 and 26 teams, the Canadiens and Oilers made 7 finals apiece, the Flyers 6, and the Islanders 5, meaning 4 teams claimed 25 of 40 finalist berths over a 20-season span. And they won 17 combined titles those 20 years, aided by a prohibitive free agency system that stifled player movement, suppressed salaries and kept championship cores together longer. It wasn't until NHL Players Association upheavals and early 1990s labor stoppages that unrestricted free agency for veteran players arrived in 1995. No NHL team has won more than 2 consecutive titles since. Sure, a relatively recent revival by Original 6 franchises in Detroit, Chicago and Boston sometimes makes it seem like old dynasties still rule. They've combined for 8 more titles since 1995, and at least one has appeared in 11 of the past 23 finals. Also, the Pittsburgh Penguins winning 3 championships and making 4 finals appearances that span, not to mention 2 titles right before that in 1991 and 1992, sometimes makes it feel like new teams aren't breaking through. But the rule book isn't causing it. In fact, a salary cap now helps franchises compete more evenly. No, the NHL teams that won previously are winning again simply because the natural cycle turned their way. Problem is, so few teams won previously, it takes time for newer squads to capture cups with regularity as they bump up against older franchises coming around for another turn. But fresh opportunity abounds. 12 different NHL teams have won a Stanley Cup since 1995, which is right on par with other major North American sports leagues. 8 of those teams, such as the Capitals, won their first title in the 52 seasons before 1995, starting with the onset of the Original 6 era. Only 11 different teams won the Cup, badly lagging other leagues. Only 5 of those were first-time winners. This is as close to true Stanley Cup democracy as any living fan has seen. And an era your reigning champion Capitals will gladly take over anything previous.